Hey y'all, I added some eyelets to the cover of my Seahorse journal and just tied some string on here for now to hold it closed where I could work on the cover. And remember this journaling card that I made? I decided that I want that to be the image on the cover. So I'm going to use this Seahorse for the front cover and try to decide what I'm going to embellish him with. Now I also need to cover the spine still, and I'm being pretty wishy-washy about how I want to do that because I haven't found exactly the right color, and I'm going to delete a huge part of this video where I'm just playing with fabrics and textures and things and trying to figure out what I'm going to put on that spine. I think maybe this piece of fabric for the spine, but I'm going to need to use some inks and change the color tone a little bit. Stuck between that one and another piece of fabric. In the meantime, I have some cheesecloth that matches this journal almost perfectly. So I'm going to use this cheesecloth, and I'm just going to start cutting chunks out of what I have and playing around with it and start layering this. And then here I start going through the process of trying to decide what other pieces of fabric and ribbon and texture and things I want to add to the front of the cover. And I thought maybe I wanted to use this, but it wasn't doing it for me. So I found this upholstery trim. I bought this at Hobby Lobby, in the trim section, like where the pillow trim is. And it has all these different seashells hanging from it and some beading. And I'll show you a close-up when I get all this put together. So I chose a section out of here that I liked. There was one particular shell that caught my eye that I really wanted to use on here. And this is stitched together. All the beading and the seashells are stitched on. So I'm just gluing the threads down where I cut these pieces because I don't want the whole piece coming apart. So I'll just put a little glue on to make sure that trim stays together. Now, I bought this trim several years ago, so I don't know if Hobby Lobby still has this trim in stock. And then I'll glue the little threads together and glue them down on this piece of the trim so they don't come apart when I'm working with them. These strings are annoying me, so I'm going to go ahead and clip those off and get them out of the way. And what I want to do is glue this piece of trim to the bottom of the card where the seashells will hang off the bottom. And I'm just adjusting all of the beading and the width of the stitches to make sure that the shells are going to lay flat. And then this is pretty white, and nothing in this journal is really white, so I'm taking some Distress Oxide ink and ground espresso, and I'm inking up that trim so that the white doesn't show up. And then I will glue this to the bottom of the card. And I just want to barely catch that trim where the beads will all hang down. And I'm just adjusting everything back here on the back. Ended up using my scissors to help me do that. And once it's all glued down really well, I'll clip the tips of that trim off, even with the card, and put some glue to hold the threads down. Okay, I like this so far. And I'm going to be adding quite a bit more of the cheesecloth pieces underneath here. And then I went searching for something else to use as a layer, and I found some more of this. This I used on the inside of the journal for the flip up page that I made. And I'm just going to cut some kind of jaggedy looking edges so that it kind of looks like coral. And then I'm going to see if I like these tucked behind the card. Okay, just playing around with this. Decide I'm going to cut another couple of pieces and see if I like this or not. And everybody's going to bed, so I can stop doing the voiceover and actually talk to you guys. Okay, I like that. So let's do some more of that. Scissors. I don't want it square as I cut it. Yep. Okay, I like that. And I want a piece of cheesecloth. Sort of over that. No, I don't. Apparently, I do not. Yep. I want this underneath. Okay. I still need to figure out what this side's gonna be, but I'm going to stop the camera and get all of this glued onto the back. And I'm gonna decide. I still kind of like this, but I want it darker, so I'm gonna see if I can dye this darker. That's too much. This is too dark. It's too dark. I have some of this. It's too bright. I have this. But it's too light. That is too bold. Let me see what I can come up with. Get these pieces glued on and then I'll be back. Yeah, forget that I'm talking because I was concentrating. But you could see here where I've added it around, and this is what the back looks like. Okay, I've just been gluing pieces on and kind of trying to cut them a little bit jaggedy. Okay. And now I'll start putting the cheesecloth pieces on the back. Okay. This is what I have. And this is the ugly back. I'm not gonna lie, it's still drying in places. Cheesecloth is hard to work with sometimes. So now when I lay it on the journal cover, let's see. I think it's gonna sit, yeah, about there. And this is what it looks like. But I do need to cover the spine before I glue this piece on. But I like it. There's the shells at the bottom. And then I'll see what else I want to add to it once I get the spine covered. And I'm going to decide on a tie for now. Okay, so let me show you what I'm doing. First of all, I'm trying to turn myself into a Smurf because I didn't wear gloves like I should have. And I know when I'm using blue, I need to be wearing gloves. Blue and purples and reds tend to soak into my skins like ridiculous. Anyway, I have these little distress inks, and this one is called Peacock Feathers, and this one, the color is Cracked Pistachio. And I took this piece of fabric and I ran these over the fabric, and I did test them over here, which is how I ended up like this. So now what I'm gonna do is I have some 91% isopropyl alcohol. So this will dry really fast. Instead of using water, I'm gonna use this alcohol to mix this ink, and I'm gonna use one of these cheap makeup sponges. Although sometimes I will say these with the vitamin E in them sometimes will change the colors. I don't know why. They just do. So I'm gonna put some alcohol on this little sponge. And try to blend these colors a little bit and see what happens here. And this is already drying. And I'll show you what I ended up with as far as matching the journal. Matches it pretty well. So this is going to be what I cover the spine with, because the spine cracked a little bit. Yep. So I'm going to let this finish drying. Just needs to air dry. Okay. This dried. I did rip it down a little bit narrower. I'm gonna fold it in half just to make a little bit of a crease line where I can follow the edge of this journal. And I'm gonna glue right along this edge first. Just to seal that. And then I'm gonna glue part of the way across here. This is just the way that I do it so that I can make sure I'm where I want to be. And I'm going to open that up. Try to get that edge in that middle line that I created. And then I'm going to smooth down the first glued section, pull this back, and glue the next section. And because this is batik fabric, the glue doesn't seep through really. Batik fabric is very nice quilting fabric. It's usually hand dyed, wax dipped, and then they boil the wax off. It's a very interesting process. If you have not seen batik fabric made, go watch some videos. Really, really cool process. Long process, but very cool process. And I'm gonna clip a little bit above show you on camera, a little bit above the journal. Leave a little, I'm gonna leave a little edge there. Okay. I'm gonna glue this piece on. And I'm gonna use a lot of glue. I need to refill my bottle. And I want to use a lot of glue, especially where all this cheesecloth is along the edge, because the cheesecloth does soak up quite a bit of glue until it dries. Just trying to make sure everything's where I want it before I really push down on this. I think it is. good as it gets. I'm gonna make sure that my beads are glued down really well. And I get that little bit of glue off of here, where I got it on that piece of cheesecloth. Just gonna try to give that a few minutes to catch really well. I'll show you a close-up of what it looks like. Oh, I need to go wash my hands again. I'm gonna change this out and decide what I'm gonna do on the back here later on. But for now, I need to let this dry. Okay. So progress on the cover. I'm really happy with it. Thanks for watching, y'all.